I saw my 3 little kids, and at the time they were 1 year old, 2 year old, and 4 year old. And my daughter's in a black dress. My sons are in black suits. My wife is crying, and my casket was going down into the ground. And it was the only negative vision I had the whole time I was up there. And it was like my little guy flung himself onto the casket, and the guy that puts the casket in the ground, I guess the grave digger, was starting to throw dirt back on the casket as it started to lower down into the ground. And my littlest guy jumped on the casket, and the dirt hit him. And that's what made me stop. And it was such a vivid picture. And I stopped and I said, God, can I go back?
Hey, it's Rocky. Welcome to Richer Soul. Today's guest is Dave Scatchard, who's a former NHL hockey player, to share his journey and what he learned about living life to its fullest. Imagine it's 12 months from now, and you've achieved your major life goals. How does it feel to be in the best shape of your life? To wake up energized, excited about the day? To have great relationships and friends who support you and propel you forward? How does it feel to have an excess of money, to be able to make the choices you want? To be fearless and open to trying new adventures? Imagine being connected to the universe and it providing everything you desire. It's possible over time, and your past does not dictate your future. The only thing holding you back from this vision is you. It's time to take control of our thoughts and use them to our advantage. Welcome to Richer Soul, where we achieve our dreams and create harmony to health, wealth, relationships, time, and spirituality. If you have not had a chance to listen to episodes 1 through 9, I encourage you to go back and listen to the framework behind Richer Soul and how to create the life of your dreams. You can also find all the show notes for this episode at richersoul.com. Today's quote is from Malcolm Forbes. The biggest mistake people make in life is not trying to make a living at doing what they enjoy most. I know I was guilty of this for a long time. And now I'm in alignment, doing what I love and getting paid a lot. That's the way it should be. Before we chat about that, last week's action step was to learn more about Andrew and the Way and the groups he's created. If you enjoyed the episode, then check it out. Sometimes having that map and that path forward helps you to get to where you want to be. I'm thrilled to be getting back to living and live events again. We've been traveling, and we just had a wonderful 3-day charity event with amazing food and wine. It's one of my favorite events of the year. I hope we can all get back to normal and life settles in. I know, though, it may still be a while. Do you live in alignment? Do you do what you love? Finding that intersection is life-changing. A lot of times it takes exploration. And it does take work, but the work is fun. And since you love it, you are naturally going to be better than most others because you're always working hard at improving yourself. I asked Dave about that and his choice to be in the NHL and the toll it took on him. Listen in and you'll hear his answer. Dave Scatchard had a 14-year career as a hockey player in the NHL, but after his 5th concussion left him with slurred speech, headaches, and traumatic brain injuries, he embarked on a journey around the world to restore his health and reinvent his life. With the guidance of top coaches, healers, and energy workers, Dave transformed himself and developed a systematic coaching approach for business and individuals to redesign, optimize, and transform their future into one that's filled with abundance, health, and an incredible amount of energy. Dave lives in Arizona with his wife and 3 kids and 2 dogs. Let's meet Dave and hear his story. Welcome to Richer Soul, Dave Scatchard. It's great to have you join us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for the invite. I'm excited.
I am excited too, and looking forward to you sharing your journey and some of the insights and getting a little bit deeper. We always like to start at the beginning, though. What was it like when you were growing up, and how much did your family and school teach you about money?
Well, it's a great question. And I wish I'd been taught more. I wish that I had a father that had some more knowledge than what he had to pass down to me. Really, you just don't spend a lot and you save what you can and you work really hard to make money. And, in the NHL, I realized that there were some things that I was taught when I was growing up that may or may not be true. And I started to have to form my own beliefs and knowledge about learning about money. And I've been very blessed to run multiple businesses and have, I guess tens of millions of dollars in and out of my accounts over my lifetime. And I had to learn about money. It became part of my life. And, as a life and business coach now, I'm continually teaching about money. And I find it funny because I'm teaching, it's almost like unlearning the lessons that the people without money taught you about money. Nobody with money ever gives you the lesson, just save and that's all you do. People with money look at money differently than everybody else.
So what are some of the bad lessons that you learned? And then let's kind of take it from there to what are some of these wiser lessons that you now have?
Yeah. I mean, we could stay here days. I coach some stuff, but it's like, okay, basics. Number one, money's hard to make, or there's limited amount out there. You have to trade time for money. That's how you make money. My dad was a physical education teacher. God rest his soul. He's an amazing human being. And I wrote the book. He didn't have to know much about money because he didn't really have much money. He'd get it and then he'd pay the bills with it and then it'd be gone. And then he'd go earn it again. And then he quit teaching and went into the coal mining industry because the money was a little bit better in coal mining. So he became a coal miner. So, the savings piece was great. Everybody needs to save some money. Okay. But I like the investing piece better. I like asymmetrical risk versus reward better. I like doing deals where I have to win. I like continuity deals. I like membership deals. I like passive income deals. All of those, that's how the rich get richer, is like, if I can make money on some of my real estate and it's being rented to movie stars in Vancouver when they're going to film that, and I don't have to be there and I get to go use the home, I think it's a fantastic investment. I had a house in Cabo San Lucas. I bought homes everywhere that I played. Vancouver, New York, Boston, Phoenix, Nashville. I bought homes everywhere. And I used them as vehicles. Even when I got traded or I signed with a new team, I would keep them as high-end luxury rental properties or things like that. And over time, those mortgages kind of paid for themselves. So, I've had a knack for finding deals. I own a restaurant still. I have a 7-figure coaching business. We've kind of figured out a way to make money where it's not just me punching the clock and going and, I worked at McDonald's. I worked at Safeway. I worked for the dollar per hour and trading time for money model. And that's okay. I'm not dissing anybody that does that. You got to pay the bills. But to get wealthy, I don't know if that's the formula that I would use.
What got you started in real estate? Because I noticed that in the book. I was like, oh, he's buying real estate in Vancouver. That's a no-brainer, like moneymaker.
It is. But when you didn't have a lot of it and you're going and buying your first $1 million property is the first home that you buy, it's kind of scary. It's kind of crazy. But, here's another thing too. And I don't know how to teach this correctly, but my best deals I ever did, especially in real estate, were deals where I knew something special and unique was with the property. And it was kind of outside my comfort zone, meaning too expensive for me, or I couldn't really do the deal. And I had to get creative or resourceful to find out how to do the deal. Those deals were the best deals I ever did in my life. And something in me told me, hey, this is unique. This is waterfront. This is a penthouse on the ocean. This is a townhouse on the ocean. This is a house in Cabo. I can rent it for $1,000 a night. How many nights do we have to rent to cover our mortgage? What happens if renters don't show up? Like, this is the mindset of a young man who doesn't really have a background in this. I ended up eventually getting my real estate license, and I do side deals with my own real estate. I'm not technically a realtor anymore. I don't really do open houses or anything like that. But if friends or buddies are looking for a deal, I'm really good at finding deals. I'm really good at negotiating. So yeah, I don't really know. I just, in the stock market, listen, I have stocks and stuff, but I've never felt as comfortable as I do with real estate. And I like real estate because as an investment, I can go use my investment. Like I can't go really use my stock. Like if I like Starbucks, I want to buy Starbucks, I'm paying myself essentially as being a shareholder, of owning some shares of Starbucks, but it's not quite the same as having a house in Cabo on the ocean, raising 3 kids and going down there after the seasons were over and running around on the beach and getting married down there. That's an investment, and it's a great investment. So that's a cool way to live, is if you can have your investments be fun, cool things you get to use and play with and rent and share or trade or barter. Like, I mean, there's so many, it's so flexible with real estate. And that's what I really liked about it. And you could really leverage money to go buy those properties.
That is so very true. You said one thing, which I think it's a struggle for a lot of people. You know how to negotiate. And negotiation's part of life, and people are afraid to do that. And the reality is that's where the opportunities come from. When you're talking about real estate, it kind of reminded me, it's like, at some point I probably should have bought a high-end used car dealer that sold Ferraris and Porsches. And then this way, every month I could have a new Ferrari, drive it for a month, sell it, get a new Porsche, drive it for a month, sell it.
I seriously have a friend that does that. I had him on a summit that I had, a virtual summit, and he told me he's closed somewhere close to like $1 billion in car deals, and which is pretty hard to imagine, but he's been in the business for 30, 40 years, so whatever it is. And every time that he takes a picture or I look him on Instagram, he's in one of his new cars, kind of promoting it, right? Because you're like, hey, I just got a new Ferrari on the lot, or I just got a new Lamborghini on the lot, da 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 da. And it's fascinating I had him come on and talk about money with my group, because in order to do that business, you got to think of money differently. Like, cars are in and out. You're winning on most deals. What's your margins? How do you be profitable? How do you run a profitable business? How do you market it? How do you go find the car? How do you find the deal? How do you buy a car online? So there are skill sets that need to be used when making significant amounts of money. But I also think that the mindset is probably the biggest piece.
And money mindsets are a big part of it. And you even said it, right? You were taught I have to work hard, which means you think you have to work hard, or I have to trade my time for money. Then you're stuck in that type of thinking. So out of curiosity, are you doing anything different with your kids?
Wow. I had a conversation with somebody yesterday about our kids, and I didn't come from much at all. And I paid for all my own stuff. I had a paper route. I collected pop cans and soda cans and traded them in for 5 cents a can when I was a kid. Like, I was always entrepreneurial. I always found a way to make my own money, just because if I wanted extra stuff, we didn't really have the money for it. So I'd have to go make it myself. My dad's like, you want that? Go save your money, or save your $2 a week allowance or whatever, a month or whatever it was. My paper route paid me $20 a month. And I remember I bought a $300 really fancy BMX bike. I was really into half pipes and like doing all the tricks and everything. And my dad's like, you want one of those $300 bikes? Like, you got to pay for it with your own money. That was 2 years of running my paper out, over 2 years. And I remember I was $20 short and I started crying at the thing. I only had $280 saved. My dad's like, son, you're about to learn how to negotiate. So the bike was for sale for $300. My dad came in. He's like, look, this is my kid's allowance. It's all the money that he has in the world. He's saved it. We'll give you $200 for the bike. And the guy's like, I can't sell the bike for $200. And he's like, well, what can you sell it for? And he's like, well, maybe I could do like $270, $280, something like that. My dad's like, look, it's his money. He's 12 years old. He friggin' saved all his money. Like, what do you do, $250? And that was like my first negotiation. We got the bike for $250. We saved $50. And I've negotiated every home that I've ever bought exactly the same way. Everything. Think about it. You need to be able to market. You need to be able to sell. You're selling yourself if you want to get in a relationship and you want somebody to like notice you or pay, like figure out, get a chance to meet you and love you. You're selling yourself to a client. You're selling yourself to your team. You're selling yourself to your friends. Like, it's not fake, but you need to show up as the best version of you that has the most value for them, and they'll want to hang out with you. So it's like this authenticity piece that like I think most of the world is missing. And it's a lot about what I teach. And it's funny because the whole time I played in the NHL, I was a really good person and I did a lot for charity and all that. But there was a huge part of me that was like really armored up and covered up. And I didn't want to be weak and I didn't want to be scared. I didn't want to be vulnerable. So I would put on this facade. I don't know if it was to trick my teammates or the coaches or to trick my own self into being more brave and bold. But when I left the game, I was still hanging on to pieces of that. And that really hurt my healing. It took, like, I wasn't healing. It took over 3 years. And I was just devastated with, we haven't got into the injuries or anything, but I had my 5th concussion, near-death experience. I came back. When I came back, I was a disaster. My body was broken. My mind was broken. I was taking Alzheimer's medicine. I dragged my leg when I walked. I slurred my speech. I couldn't remember. I had no memory of anything. It was just awful. And I was bleeding in my brain. So my cognitive function was just really broken. And I was embarrassed. I went into hiding. I'm screaming at God. And I'm like, why are you punishing me? Like, I'm a good person. And I know you're real. I just saw you. Why are you punishing me? And I couldn't figure out why I wasn't healing until I finally removed all the masks and armor that I packed on over the years of playing in the NHL and fighting people and becoming this gladiator and this warrior. And there were parts of that I didn't need to wear anymore. Nobody was trying to take my job. Nobody was trying to fight me. No coaches were going to scream at me. So why was I still wearing it when I was retired and just trying to get better? It didn't make any sense to me.
It's a journey and a process to kind of let go. And we're taught to armor up. And I think part of that is because as a kid going to school, you're constantly almost facing that type of struggle. And so it builds up the armor. And over time, you forget, like the frog in boiling water, you do it slowly and you forget who you are, what you've done, and what you've become. And then you have to learn to let go of it. And a lot of people are asleep, so they never let go of it. So let's take a step back. Let's get your backstory, right? So you have this crazy, intense drive to play hockey as a kid. Where did this come from?
I wish I knew. I mean, the competitiveness definitely came from my father. He was the most competitive man ever. He never let me win. Like, how you let your kid win or whatever? He would never let me win. Like, I had to earn my win with him, which in a way I respect. Like, the participation medals and the ribbons, that's sweet and all, but it just doesn't really build any character to me. Like, if I want a trophy or a medal, which I did as a young kid, I was really proud of that because only the winning team got that. Winning team or maybe second place team, but like the whole tournament didn't get it. Like, well, you get an award for showing up and half-assing it, and then you still get the same trophy as the person that killed themselves to win first place. Like, there's something broken with our model. And I think this is the conversation I had. So we're circling back, we're going back and forth, but you said, do you teach your kids the same thing about money? Like, conversation I had yesterday, I can't remember if it was with a client or somebody else, but I said, I feel like our society, and tell me if this is true for you, that we gave so much. We give so much to our kids now because we didn't have a lot growing up. And that includes hugs. That includes love and affection and all this like touchy-feely stuff, which is, I'm obsessed with my kids. Like, I'm always, and they're getting bigger now. So my son's like, Dad, I'm 12, like, stop kissing me. And I'm like, no, you're my kid. I'm always going to kiss you. I love you. But I feel like the pendulum from the whole thing, I'm like, well, I'm never going to be like a borderline abusive like my father was, or I'm never going to be like, let my kid grow up like with lack. Like I ate bologna and ketchup sandwiches. Like I thought that was like what everyone did, but it was like we didn't really have have a lot of other stuff. Everyone would have these like, I don't know if you remember, they were like yops. They were like these yogurt things, and you mix them up and you shake them up and you drink them. We didn't afford that. We couldn't afford that. We just drank like water in our thermos or whatever, and it wasn't. I just feel like I know that I live in a 10,000 square foot house. I got waterfalls. I got 2 trampolines. I got a playground. I got a hockey net, a basketball net. I got everything that I never had growing up. Like I had 2 boots. That was my hockey nets. And I wrote in the book, like getting a net for Christmas was like a huge celebration, like insane. I got my kid a net from the rink, and he shot like 10 pucks in it. And I was like, and it's hilarious because I never wanted to be one of those athletic fathers and like push my kids. But sometimes I'm looking back on, I never pushed them, and they're all behind in sports now, and they're natural athletes, but they're not as good as the kids who started when they were like 4 or 5. My kids started like 7 or 8, and they're like 3 years behind.
So this is the reality of life. And it comes from, I think there's an old Chinese proverb, and we saw it because we're immigrants. And so this was always talked about. And because I knew this, I was very intentional with my kids. The first generation works its butt off, right? The second generation grew up watching the parents work their butt off, and they get a stronger foundation, and then they truly succeed. Well, the third generation comes along, and what generally happens is that second generation spoils the third generation. And then the third generation blows it all. And then the fourth generation starts over. And because I knew I was that second generation with my kids, now, granted, we didn't give them bologna sandwiches, but we were very intentional in saying, you need to strive for yourself, and giving them the appropriate opportunities to do so, because it's a problem. It is human nature, and it's just what we do. But it is through that struggle that they learn. You would not be who you are today had it not been for those struggles your dad put you through.
I'm telling you, like the whole thing that I talk about in the book is like each of these so-called curses or struggles that I went through, man, I'm grateful for them. I'm so grateful for every single one of them. It's made me so strong and so full of faith, because I know God's going to pull me through in the end. I know I'm going to win in the end. It might take longer than I thought, but like I have like insane optimism about everything. Like I always believe that I can bring enough energy and God can align me. When I'm aligned, I'm unstoppable. When I'm truly aligned with my authentic nature and the way God built me and made me and what my purpose is, nobody can ever stop me.
And I'm 100% with you on that. I think the struggle for most people is to figure out their alignment.
And that comes with the too much armor on. See, when the armor comes off, the whispers and the nudges and the grace starts to flow. And you're like, oh, well, what if I try this? Or why don't I try this? And then literally, it's almost like God's realigning you and sliding you into, hey, you're doing great, but let's move you over here, because this is really your sweet spot. This is like the jet stream. This is like you're swimming with the current instead of against the current. And if you're grinding life, there's a really good possibility that you're just out of alignment or integrity with some of your core fundamentals about how you were created or what you believe in. And I really am a huge believer in trying to work into alignment and trying to be able to dream as if anything was possible and let that take me where it takes me.
So true. So let's get to the book. What inspired you to write the book, The Comeback, My Journey Through Heaven and Hell?
Well, honestly, and you'll hear about it in the book, so it's coming out in the world now, but I was really hesitant about talking about the near-death experience. It wasn't a near-death experience, it was a death experience. And I did connect with God. I did walk with God, and I was walking with God. And it's a long story, but I was unconscious for 10 minutes on the ice. I thought I might have broke my neck, and I was on a spinal board. In the meantime, I left the ice. I could see the paramedics working on me on the ice, and I'm like floating up, and it's the trippiest thing ever. And when I walk into this, when the darkness of the tunnel finally disappears at the top, I'm literally bathed with the most beautiful grace and love that you could ever imagine. And that love was just purest light and most beautiful light you've ever seen in your life. And I was just like in awe. And I just started crying. Like, I didn't grow up in the church. I don't know I don't really know what I'm supposed to be seeing or whatever. This is just what I saw. So take it for what it's worth. But it was the most love and unconditional love that you could possibly imagine. It was the most grace, and it was like pure ecstasy. Like, it felt like my entire being was smiling, and like complete bliss and freedom. It wasn't heavy. It wasn't worrisome. It wasn't anxious. It wasn't tired. It was like in space. There's so much space. And the light was flowing into me, and the light was flowing out of me at the same time, which is like, I was like, what's going on? Make a long story short, the light holds me. It begins communicating with me, and I would think a thought and the answer would just come. And it was like this back and forth communication. It was really wild. So I'm in perfection. Like, I am in complete freedom and love, and there's no reason to go anywhere else. I have no fear of ever, I don't want to die, but if that's where I'm going, if that's where I'm going again, like, I'm in, like, count me in, because it's amazing. So I'm sitting there, and the light was just kept reassuring me, everything's going to be okay. You're okay. In an accident, it's okay. And I'm confused, but I'm not, because I know that wherever I am is the right spot. And then at one point I began walking with the light like a little boy. Like, I have my arm up, and the light's like walking with me, and it's like holding my hand like a little boy. And we're just walking somewhere. I don't know if that's into heaven. I don't know if we're at heaven's gates. I'm not exactly sure. I don't even try to process it, because it was so beautiful. But here's what I do know. I had this flash where I saw my 3 little kids, and at the time they were 1 year old, 2 year old, and 4 year old. And my daughter's in a black dress, my sons were in black suits, my wife was crying, and my casket was going down into the ground. And it was the only negative vision I had the whole time I was up there. And it was like my little guy flung himself onto the casket, and the guy that puts the casket in the ground, I guess the grave digger, was starting to throw dirt back on the casket as it started to lower down into the ground. And my littlest guy jumped on the casket, and the dirt hit him. And that's what made me stop. And it was such a vivid picture. And I stopped and I said, God, can I go back? Once again, it's this loving God. It's like, you can, but you don't have to. I said, they're little. I don't want them growing up without their dad. Once again, it's like, you can, but you don't have to. You're home. And I'm like, I think I got to go back. So I ask if I can go back. And before I do, I say, look, do you want me to go back, give away all my money, and go on a mission trip, and just like tell people about, like, what do you want me to do? I know you're real now. And it's funny, because even though I didn't grow up in the church, I always talked to God. I had this like communication as a young child all the time. Then it kind of went away. But I said, what do you want me to do? And he said, I want you to take this love and light that you hear right now, and I want you to spread it everywhere you go when you go back there, and look into everyone's eyes and love them like they're your brother or your sister. Because they are. And I said, that's it? That's all you want me to do? Like, it's not very complicated. He's like, yeah, that's all I want. And then I was just about to come back, and the second thing they said was, oh yeah, and I'd like you to share this story with the world. So the first part was incredible, and I changed my outlook on other people and saw them as souls and not just people with roles. And then the sharing my story with the world part, it's taken me 10 years. It's basically like a 10-year anniversary for this book getting out. And it's been on my heart and it's eaten away at me. And it's like, Dave, you're not keeping your promise. Like I made a promise that that's what I would do. And I haven't kept it. So this book is me keeping my promise, my word, and hoping that it affects somebody out there and impacts their life in a special way. And I hope we sell hundreds of thousands of copies of this thing, but I want to start with helping like one person. And I think that the stories in this book, there's so many weird, it's like a roller coaster. There's so many lessons inside of it that I think most people have to get something out of it. I just believe that.
I very much enjoyed reading it. It was a great book, tons of lessons. The one thing that always stuck in the back of my mind, and we haven't really talked about it, is you spent a tremendous amount of time to get into the NHL. It took you a tremendous amount of work, and you kind of touched on it. That was your 5th concussion. In today's world, like, one concussion and everyone's worried, 2, and it's like panic, 3, and it's like, kind of craziness. Was it all worth it to play in the big leagues?
Yeah. I wouldn't change it. And trust me, like we haven't got to the part, like there were parts in my story when I did come back. I thought it was all going to be amazing because now I got this new connection with God. My head's cracked open. And I'm getting all these messages and stuff. When I came back, it was the opposite. I was in so much pain. I was so scared. I was so suffering. This world felt so heavy. I remember waking up in the ambulance and for the first few seconds, I didn't come back into my body. And I'm like trying to tell the paramedics, I'm like, oh my goodness, did you guys see that? That was amazing. Because I wanted them to see my experience. They're like, sir, you've been in an accident. You're outside the hospital. Calm down. My head's strapped to the spinal board. I'm still wearing my hockey equipment. My jersey's cut off of me. I'm in a neck brace. Like it's a disaster. And then I slowly started coming to my body and the heaviness of this world and the weight of this world and the pain and the migraines that I had that never left for 3 years. I was like, why? Why is this happening now? And I started to like curse God. And I'm like, why are you punishing me? I'm a good person. And after my second miracle, I remember brushing my teeth one day. And this is 3 years later after just really suffering and having like suicidal thoughts and crazy stuff going on in my head because I couldn't function. I couldn't really take care of my kids. I couldn't work. I was just a burden. I felt like I was a burden to people. And I just prayed for a miracle. And I said, if I don't get a miracle, I think I got to get out of here. That was like how I said it. After the second miracle I had, I'm brushing my teeth and like finally I removed the armor and I just have all this grace and love in me again. And it was God. And he said, I'm brushing my teeth. He was talking to me through the mirror. And he's like, Dave, I'm so sorry I had to do that to you. And if I understood passion, you wouldn't have understood no judgment. You wouldn't have understood depression, anxiety, fear, or hopelessness. But you're about to help a bunch of people that are going to be coming from places like that. And you had to live there and know that intimately to be able to help them when they come to you. That's what I was doing. That's why you were there. But I'm here now and I'm never going to leave. And I said, how do I stay connected to you? And it was like every single day I have to have time to connect. So I began meditating at like 4 a.m. every day. And that was like my routine every single day. I still to this day do. So I don't set alarms. I don't do anything. I wake up at 4 a.m. and I meditate. I made a meditation program, like for my coaching. Like, how the hell does Dave Scatchard make a meditation program? Well, I go to India with Tony Robbins. I start working with these monks and stuff. And then I'm like, man, I got special access to stuff with this injury. Like, I feel like I can move to different spaces and places and vibration. There's a different vibration for love than there is for money. There's a different money for God. There's a different vibration for God than there is for relationship. And each one has a different feeling to it. And what I found was I was able to go there spiritually or emotionally, I guess, and pluck that vibration out and then bring different sounds, acoustic sounds and healing sounds to that music and actually create an insanely powerful meditation program. And like, that was an instruction. I would go to my movie theater, I would hit record. This is after on my way out of the pain phase and into the growth phase of my life. I would go into my movie theater, I'd hit record with an intention. I'm like, okay, love. And then I would just talk for like 20, 30 minutes, no edits or anything. And that would be my meditation program. And I'm like, okay, abundance. And I just started talking. And I give it to these people. One of my clients made $3.1 million in 48 hours after doing one of my meditations. And I'm like, how's that possible? I don't even know how it's possible. But what we did was we moved his stuck energy into this unbound energy where anything's possible and made some connections in the energetic field. He brought that back into his real life and linked it up in alignment, like we talked about earlier. His phone just started ringing off the hook. He hadn't sold anything for a year and a half. He's in the oil business. He had $15 million in inventory he couldn't move. All of a sudden, he sells $3 million in like 36 hours, 48 hours. It was like insane. So how do you explain that? I don't know. It's hilarious. It's so fun for me because like every day is like a total adventure and surprise. And I surprise myself, but the fact that I'm open to doing whatever I feel is needed, I think that's what makes it fun. It's like being a little, and this is a funny line, but Tony told me this. He said, Dave, a wizard can do more in his pinky than a gladiator can do in his lifetime. And I thought, why am I trying to be a gladiator? Why don't I just be a wizard? So some of the people I hire and train with are not cheap. They're wizard-like. They are moving energy. They're working with energy in a different way that I didn't even believe was possible. But then when I look at those times when I was in the zone in the NHL, when I was in my backyard practicing, and it was like, when you can become unconsciously competent, where you're just doing it. You're not thinking about it. You're not worrying about it. You're just doing it. And you're doing it with mastery. That's like the Michael Phelpses of the world. It's when you're at the next level. And the rules bend when you go to that higher place, that higher vibration. Rules of reality or so-called reality. Think about it. Do you think that there are people that don't know the things that you know, they can't even envision the things that you know are reality?
Oh, absolutely. And I know that because of where I came from.
Yeah. Okay, great. So, and you'll know that if you go back to your old town, your small town, or your country or whatever, you'll see the cultural field affecting things, right? Which is so crazy. So then, as I've been able to move up in levels and ascension into these almost different, and I don't want to like lose people because like I'm a normal person, but sometimes I get really excited about moving to these different levels or almost dimensions or way of being. And I call it like an awakened space or the zone or whatever. But I truly believe that those are actually how we were designed from the beginning. So think about a child. A child is learning how to walk. They fall, they get up, they fall, they get up, they fall, they get up. They don't like slam their fist in the ground and say, I suck at walking. I guess it's just a sign from the universe that I'm not a walker, right? They just do stuff. They're not worried about failing. And then they jump in a mud puddle or they jump off the couch and flap their wings and they think they can fly until somebody tells them that they can't. Until somebody starts laying out this ground rules about how life is and how you must be or not be. And then you take that as fact because they're your parent, they're your principal, they're your coach. So they're saying, Dave, a good boy doesn't do that. So you go put that in your little memory bank and you go, oh, okay, a good boy would never do that. Well, in his world, a good boy would never do that. But maybe in my world, that would give me power and strength if I gave myself access to that. But I just turned it off because he told me that a good boy or a good girl would never do that. So think about how many times you were told, like when you're really little, you jump in a mud puddle and parents laugh. They think it's cute. But then they put you in your little Sunday best and you jump in the mud puddle and they yell at you for getting your clothes dirty. So what do? You just stop jumping in mud puddles because a good boy wouldn't do that or a good girl wouldn't do that. So you actually feel ashamed so many times in your life because you're following somebody else's script or rule book for you. That's not even yours. It's wild. I see it every day. I coach people out of it. It's like unlearning and getting back to the way that how do you think God presented you? And here's another, this is really powerful. You're gonna like this. So this came to me the other day. I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, listen, I buy my kid the basketball. I buy my kid the basketball net. He's got the hockey net. He's got a little piece of plexiglass to shoot the pucks off. Like I did as a kid. He's got 2 trampolines. He's got bikes. He's got everything, right? And I give it to him. And he's sitting in his beautiful home that he lives in. And he says to me, I'm bored. Okay. Now, this is one of I don't use the word bored ever. But if I were to, think about it like this. What if God or the universe, whatever you want, doesn't matter. I don't put anything in a box. What if God gave you all these little gifts and all these little things to play with, all these little tools to use, this body to see what we can do with, and we waste the whole thing. And we lay around and we watch TV and we eat like crap. And then we're abusing this vessel that he gave us, this vehicle to hold our soul in. And he's sitting there looking, and he's not a hateful God, but he's just looking at your kids like, man, I'm so disappointed. I gave them the opportunity to do whatever they wanted. And this is what they're doing. It's wild, right?
It's very wild. And we are programmed from a very young age. We're programmed to follow certain scripts. And I think that's really where, for people who travel outside of the United States, especially to third world countries, and see how other people live and behave, all of a sudden you realize that what you're taught isn't necessarily true.
True.
And I think part of it is also we have forgotten. And what I mean by that is we're so marketed to today, but even going back, somehow they figured out how to make the pyramids. We still can't figure out how they did that. We've lost knowledge. I was reading recently, the Romans created cement. And then the Dark Ages came and it got lost for 900 years until they found it somewhere in I think it was in some church place. They found the book of how do you make cement. And then they started making cement again.
Wow.
I think over the thousands of years that humans have been alive, we have forgotten how to live because we're out of nature. We're out of having to survive. We're out of that whole place.
We're out of alignment.
You're out of alignment. Today's episode is sponsored by Profit Answer Man Podcast. Did you know that most small business owners hate looking at their financials? It's one reason they may struggle with business success. The Profit Answer Man podcast helps them ensure they are profitable and can pay their employees and weather the storms we all have to face. It's built on the Profit First methodology of pay yourself first. The Profit Answer Man podcast is a must listen to for every small business owner and anyone who wants to help them survive and thrive. Check it out on your favorite listening platform. So how do we get into alignment?
It starts with discovering the purest version of your soul. So for me, I think I talk about it in the book. And for your listeners, I'm about to hold up a picture to the camera, and this is little David. Now, right before I removed my mask and armor, I was doing this exercise, and I was trying to think of the purest version of my soul. And I kept visualizing this little 5-year-old kid with a Superman cape on, and my dad holding me by my ankles and me posing like a Superman sideways in the picture. Okay, this is wild. So I have this clear vision. And that weekend, I remember I ran around. I had two dogs, Irish setters, that are Rusty and Penny. And we ran through the woods. We collected frogs. We played in the creek. Like, it was amazing. I just in love with nature and animals and people. And I just wanted to help my mom, help my dad. Like, that was me at my core. That was before I'd been spanked, before I had my heart broken, before I was programmed, right? This is just little David ripping around in the campground, in the forest. I have this vision, and I remove all the mask and armor, and I finally discover this guy inside of me, and he's the same light and the same color as heaven was. So I know it's true, but he's so deeply buried underneath all the mask and armor. He's suffocating. He's in hiding because we had to go beat the crap out of people for 15 years, to keep our job and be out of alignment, out of our nature. So you want to know the interesting thing about this is this vision of this little boy carried me so far in my healing, and I allowed him to lead. And I said, well, what would little David do right now? Well, he wants to walk on this like curb. He doesn't want to walk on the side of it. He wants to walk on the curb and be playful and silly and childlike. Like, I'm learning about the Bible because, like I said, I didn't grow up in church, and I don't even this isn't about religion or spirituality or anything. That's not what this talk is about, but I'm just sharing my personal thing. But they mention childlike, be childlike, like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. But I figured this out on my own before I knew that the Bible said all this. So you want to hear what crazy is? This is crazy. So I'm sitting there, and it's Christmas time, and my, I don't know how old, 90-year-old grandma takes her last flight. It's her last flight that she's had. And she comes from Canada down to Arizona. She's staying in my home. We're opening up all the Christmas gifts. And I haven't told my wife or anybody about this vision I had about little David. I just kind of kept it to myself. This revelation that this guy's going to lead me to the promised land. Grandma gives me my gift last. And I open it up, and it's this freaking picture. The exact same picture that I had a few months before when I had my breakthrough about letting little David lead. It was the most beautiful Christmas gift I've ever got. And the confirmation from God and the universe is like, yes, what you see and what you believe to be true, with him leading the way, is the truth. Your kids are a reflection of God and the light and love, especially when they're little, before they're programmed. That's why people love babies and love being around little kids, because they're like curious and they're playful and they're silly. Sad that we've lost touch with that. So we both give you permission, all the listeners out there, to go be as silly and playful and childlike, and don't worry about anyone judging you, because if they do, they're not judging you. They're actually just wishing that they were you. I like the way that looks better. Anyways.
It's funny because one of the things that I think about when I think about Tony Robbins and why it's so impactful is he encourages you to be a kid again. Like, that is part of his thing, is to go back to that place of freedom and go back to that place and to enjoy it and to have fun with it. And so I think that definitely makes sense.
I'll just tell a personal story, and like, it has to do with Tony, and Tony was a huge influencer in my life, and I chased him around the world as a couple of years as a platinum partner, tried to learn everything I could from him. And but you're saying this, and even though Tony would coach it, you would see occasionally a glimpse of him being childlike. Okay, but for the most part, he's the leader. He's the chest pounder. He's really the alpha dog, right? And he has to, when he's on stage, be like that. But I remember one particular event, and he had just come back from, I can't remember if it was India or Brazil, and he just done some kind of crazy stuff to open him up even more. And I saw Tony almost like ballerina-ing, like doing these pirouettes these like jumps and stuff down the aisleway of, it might have been David Destiny or something. And I look over at a bunch of my plats who we'd seen them do 150 events, probably 50, 60 events, over 2 or 3 years. And I'm like, have you ever seen them do that? And they're like, never. I'm like, what the hell? What's he gotten into? Like, what Kool-Aid's have you been drinking? And I come to find out that he had just got back from this thing that he did to really help him open and expand and get to that next level. But not many people got to see that. Like, he went back into like beast mode and like, fearless leader type of deal. But for that one glimpse in that day, I saw him crack and go into that playful, silly, beautiful, beautiful state. And he even walked by and he kind of like throws a look at the front of us in the front of the crowd. He's like, yeah, I know. I can't believe I just did that.
And that's a big part of what he likes to do, is to get you out of your comfort zone. It's to push you into a different place in a different way and to call you out. And so
that's what has to happen. Nothing great will come in certainty. Nothing. You will not be great if you want certainty.
And he talks about that, right? Certainty is one of the base things. Uncertainty, security, significance,
growth and contribution. Yeah. Like, there will be nothing, like, creation begins on the edge of chaos, right? It's like something needs, okay. So this is kind of coming from Donnie Epstein teaching, and Donnie is the guy that I study with. And Donnie is one of Tony's healers. And Donnie explains it like, if there's too much stability in the energetic system, the universe, trauma, or yourself needs to bring some instability in to change the energetics of it, because it's too stagnant. It's like suffocating. It's dying. So it's like when the warning light goes on in your car. I always teach my clients, like, all right, your warning light just went on in your car. Like, let's go get our oil changed. Let's go get our tire pressure fixed in our tire, right? But some people keep driving around with the warning light going on and on and on until their car breaks down on the highway at the most inopportune time. And they're like, oh my God, I can't believe that my car just broke down. Well, I can, because the universe and God have been trying to tell you to take your car in and check it and give it some more energy. So check it out. If your relationship is suffering, or you get in a bad argument or something, that's a warning light going on the dash of your car. It's saying, pay attention here. This needs more energy. This needs more focus, right? Your kids. So for example, we had a weird call about our daughter yesterday, and I'll always be honest and share my personal stuff because I think it helps teach. But it's like, we had this weird call about our daughter. And I looked at my wife and I said, do you think we need to worry about her? Is she okay? She's 14. She's a teenager. And my wife goes, well, I don't know. Let's talk about it. Do you think like this is, something we need to worry about or not? And I said, well, look, it's like the light went on in her car. Like, let's give her more love, give her more attention, and really poke around and see if there's anything that we need to worry about, or if she needs any support in any other way. Like, this is real, right? So that's what we did. We poked around and she's fine. Everything's fine. It was kind of somebody looking at something from a different angle than we were. And we're like, do we need to be concerned about this? It wasn't anything, but we took a look at the engine light and we took our car in to get it checked out. And I suggest everybody do that. If something's off, it means that it needs more energy or more attention, whether that be your health, whether that be your finances, whether it be your relationship, or even your spirituality. If it's not working, it just needs more energy.
Pills and caffeine don't solve that either.
I'm telling you, God blessed you with the most beautiful pharmacy in the world. And when you start polluting it, it can't. It's like a beautiful pond that gets like some sludge put in it. And now all of a sudden the ecosystem's off. And then things start to die or decay. But if you can keep your ecosystem clean, you can fight off anything. I'm telling you, I've seen it with my own eyes.
And I don't think people realize that. I just recently read a book about nutrition and food, and what they talk about is appropriately fueling yourself will help you fight off infections, will help you fight off disease. One of the biggest, no one talks about it. I don't know that it's exactly proven, but sugar does tremendous damage to your body. And everything you see these days is nothing but sugar. And learning to make those controls and make those choices and do a better job with it.
Hey, if it comes out of the ground, eat as much as you want of it. If it's made in a factory or has sugar in it, it's not good for you. Don't eat it. Check this out. Like, let's just use common sense. Like, there's Dave Scatchard call the White House right now. Okay, ding. Hey, Mr. President. Yeah, so you're jabbing everyone with these vaccines. You're making everyone wear masks. If it was any other form of like child abuse, making these kids run around for 8 hours a day with a mask covering their breathing mechanisms, somebody would be arrested. But I haven't heard you once bring out some amazing health plan or how to bring alkalinity into your life for your body, or how to take the right supplements or multivitamins to make sure that your system can fight off something if you happen to get it. And then you're giving a vaccine where people are still getting the COVID with the vaccine. So I don't get that. So where's your health plan? I know you're paying somebody for health. Where are they right now when millions and millions and millions of people need them? Don't get me started on this because I could go for like an hour. But doesn't it common sense, right? Let's talk about it. Common sense.
Again, it comes back to beliefs, right? People look at food as comfort, not as fuel. We were told by the experts that this is the diet you're supposed to eat. And if you look at what the government says you're supposed to eat, it is atrocious. It is wrong. Yeah. And people don't realize how we got this way. And it's not evil.
Do you remember? I remember being in school and they had the 4 food groups. There was like a meat chunk, a dairy chunk, and this and that. I can't eat 2 of those things right out of the gate. Like, I have trouble processing meat. I'm much cleaner if I just eat like mostly vegetarian and like mixing some fish and stuff. Like, that's just what I choose. I'm 225 pounds. Like, I can bench press. I finished first in the world in central scouting testing when I was getting ready for the draft. Like, that's like the combine in the NFL. Like, I'm a strong guy. And people are like, oh, Dave, where are you getting your protein from? I'm getting it from all my food, my broccoli, my everything. There's protein in everything. Beans. Like, you don't have to eat a cow. You don't have to just smash like steak every day. And I'm not bashing it. Some people's bodies process it differently. Here's one thing that I do want to mention. I think everybody's bodies process food differently. We're all different ecosystems. So my wife, for example, she can eat more meat than me and her body craves it. Mine does not. I run the cleaner that I do, the more clear my brain is, the better my memory is, the less I need sleep. I only sleep like 5 hours a night. And I'm like, I crush days. People could not keep up with me and I barely sleep. But it's like, I don't need to sleep because my body's not clogged with all this crap that I just put in it. That's not even real. That's full of sugar. That's processed. That's like, just like, don't get me started.
I'm with you.
You talk about the money education. Like, where's the health education for our kids in schools? Like, they're still teaching the 4 food groups. Like, I'm lactose intolerant. If I eat a bowl of ice cream, then I love ice cream, but I can feel it going through. My tummy's rumbling. I get gas. I get bloated like instantaneously almost. So then I stop drinking milk and eating cheese, which I love. I love both those things, but my body is so much cleaner. It's unbelievable.
Go to Italy, have gelato and have their milk. Their milk is different. They come from different kinds of cows.
What's that? GMO? Probably not GMO.
It's not GMO. It's just a different type of cow. And I forget, we do a different breed. They do a different breed. And it makes a difference. Actually, I learned that, I think, at one of the Tony events with one of the doctors who was there. It was the cardiologist who actually started to look at food and the things that it's causing and the problems. And that was one of the things I think that kind of turned me on to that and took me down that path. And that's the other thing people don't realize is you are supposed to eat a high fat diet, and people just don't get that. And little by little, we're trying to educate them. So what are you up to these days?
Wow. Well, other than the book launch, we're launching the book September 14th. So, I don't know when this podcast is going to be out, but hopefully by the time that you hear it, we will have a bestseller on Amazon, and we'll be on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. We'll have some book funnels out there if you want to look around and try to get a deal. You can go to allstarcoaching.com. That's my coaching website, or davescatchard.com. Instagram. We have so many things. I've got a live event in December. I would love it if you guys would come. If you give me the promo link, we'll just create one for you guys later on. I'll give you guys a deal on the event ticket. So they're normally $1,000. Any listener that comes from your group, we'll just say $297 or something like that. And we're going to sell out that event. That's December 3rd, 4th, and 5th in Scottsdale. We have a bunch of cool guests, NHL speakers, some trainers and coaches that I've trained under. They're going to come and do me a favor and speak on my stage. We'll probably have over 1,000 people there. So it's going to be a big deal, and really excited about that. And raising my 3 kids, chasing them around, running multiple businesses, and trying to stay full of, I'm trying to be an extraordinary ambassador of love and light through this whole COVID experience. And, God's given me the strength to do that. And I'm honored that even during our challenges, we've got a challenge in November, the Reawaken the Champion Within Challenge. And that's a free challenge for people. We ran 17,000 people through that virtually last year. So that was really cool that we got to give back like that. So you can check me out there. Yeah. I'm just honored that you took the time with me today. And, I can't wait to meet all your guests. Any of you people that have heard me on this podcast, if you see me in an airport or whatever, come say hi. I'd love to talk to you. I'm very approachable, and I hope everybody out there crushes the rest of this year in 2022. That's my mission, and I hope that happens for each and every one of you out there.
So that starts with a small step. What is one action step people can take this week to move forward?
Well, it's a great question. I have like 10 things on the top of my tongue. So the first thing I would say would be, what's your vision? Your vision or your why? Because if your why is big enough, the how will show up. You don't need to know how, but if you need to know why you need to do it, that'll show up for you. God will bring that into your life. The universe will open that up. Donnie, one of my mentors, Donnie FC, talks about using the unbound energy. And the unbound energy is infinite. It's unlimited, but you really only hook into it when it's not about you. It's about who you're trying to serve. And then you get access to it all because that's in alignment.
It's time to learn the secrets of life. What's your secret to living an abundant life?
Authenticity and alignment.
Too many people are armored up, following someone else's dream.
They'll miss it. They'll stay asleep. The first step of healing is awareness. And if you're armored up, you don't even have an awareness that anything needs to change.
So true. As a matter of fact, I have that book on my shelf, Awareness.
Oh, I didn't even know there was a book.
We had one of Anthony DeMello's people on from his institute, and they shared that a couple episodes ago. What did you learn later in life that you wish you would have learned sooner?
There was nothing that I ever needed to change. I was perfect the way that I was.
I am enough.
I believe that we can expand into bigger roles to achieve bigger things. But I think that the key to doing that is that we need to stay authentic while we're doing it. We're selling our soul to do it and becoming or pretending to be somebody else. It's inauthentic. The world will know. You can try as hard as you want to cover it up, but it's obvious that you're not truly what or who you say that you are. So the expansion piece is huge. It's necessary to grow and to scale and to create a movement and to help thousands and thousands of people. But you need to do it authentically. I'm never going to go and be Tony Robbins. I don't try to be Tony Robbins. I'm Dave Scatchard. I'll cry 10 times during a challenge because I get so emotionally invested in my people that like I'm a very sensitive person. But the weird thing is that's what people are drawn to. Like, it's just what you see is what you get. Like, you're going to know right away where you stand with me. I'll tell you to your face. I'd rather, like, if I've got a problem with something, I'd rather just say, you know what? I don't really agree with that. And it's over. It's not like this, like, pretending I don't like disagree. I'm just like, people just need to be honest. Like, be honest, love everyone like your brother or your sister, and be authentic and aligned with who you are and why you're here and who you're about to help. That's it.
You know, it's funny. I can't help thinking, if I were going to talk to an NHL player, this is not the conversation I expected.
Nobody ever does. Nobody ever does.
If you were to give an 18-year-old one specific piece of wisdom, what would it be?
Have fun and stay true to yourself.
And that's what every 18-year-old needs. Go have fun. Stay true to yourself. You know, I remember when I was young, it's like 18. All right, go to college, get out of college, get a job. You got to be successful. And now I think I'm like, you know what? Spend your 20s finding yourself, and the rest of your life will be wonderful.
Rock it. Go be a bartender in Cabo. Like, go hang out on the beach. Go surf every day. Like, figure out like what makes you happy. Listen, there's so much emphasis on like earning love or earning your way into people's hearts. And what I've experienced is that when you're authentically yourself and you love everyone like your brother or your sister, like, they're drawn to you, they're attracted to you, they want to do business with you, they want to make love to you. Listen, you can do all the school you want, you can have all the degrees that you want, but if people can't relate to you, or you're unrelatable, or you can't network, sorry, you're going to not get the big jobs ever. All the people, I know people who walked into multi-million-dollar jobs where they are not really qualified, but they're a great person and they know somebody on the inside, and that's how they got the job. So where's our networking skills? Where's our relationship skills? Where's our true compassion for each other as humanity, and like really loving people just because it's the right thing to do?
They forgot to teach us that in college.
Gosh, it's sad, isn't it? It's so sad.
If people would like to learn more about you, connect, get the book, remind us again, what is the best place for them to do that?
Yeah, we're going to be everywhere. Amazon has the book, Barnes & Noble, allstarcoaching.com, davescatchard.com, Instagram, just at Dave Scatchard, Twitter at Dave Scatchard. We're going to have links everywhere. And we just want to get this book in as many people's hands as possible, and hope to inspire people, make them laugh, make them cry, go on this little roller coaster journey that was so far in my life. And like, it's hard to believe I'm only 45. I feel like I'm like 70 and I'm on my rocking chair and I'm like, yeah, I remember the time when I was in Brazil with the shaman. Like, no, this is like when you retire at 34 years old, you feel like you're in your 60s. So yeah, the last 10 years has been a trip, man. Let me tell you.
Well, thank you for sharing the journey and for all your wisdom. Truly appreciated having you here today.
Thank you for inviting me. And like I said, I want the best for you and all of your listeners for the end of 2021 and all of 2022.
Trading time for money can be a long journey to wealth versus real estate or business. It's one of the reasons I share so many stories of people who follow that path. Business and real estate all give you massive tax deductions. They give you opportunities you don't normally get in life. The person Dave mentioned that owns an exotic car dealership, that's a perfect example, where you literally get to drive nice cars practically free. One of the things we talked about was negotiating in life. Do you do that? Have you sharpened your negotiation skills? Do you sell yourself? Every day, that's what's required. I made sure that my kids learn those skills. I was even taught the sales and entrepreneurship badges for the Boy Scouts. It's a skill we all need. And unfortunately, It's not one that's taught. This week's action step: what's your vision or why? You don't need to know how, but define what you want in life. That's where we started today, and that's where we end. You finding alignment with your work and the universe. Next week, we have on Rob White to share the Maestro monologue: discover your genius, defeat your intruder, design your destiny. It will help you add the action steps to this week's action step and figuring out what you want. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, would you mind sharing it with somebody that you think would enjoy it as well? I'd appreciate that. Have an abundant week.